Your B2B Marketing Pint is the podcast for B2B technology marketers who want to sharpen their competitive edge. Joined by other marketing veterans, your hosts Brian O'Grady and Brendan Ziolo share expertise on what works today and why. Grab a cold pint of hot takes on branding, content marketing, demand generation, and more, served with a side of sarcasm.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the B2B Marketing Pint. Super excited for today's topic. But before we get there, Brian, who's joining us today?
Thank you for asking, Brendan. This is going to be a goodie today. I'm happy to introduce to you Miss Adrianna Shukla. Adriana, wave. There you go. Adriana's out of Boston. There you go. Adriana is a demand gen leader, and Adriana has built a lot of demand gen and scaled marketing engines across various companies. We work together at some of them, others not so much, but I'm intrigued to find out all about it. And today, Adriana, you correct me if I'm wrong, you were director of demand gen at Snowplow, and you've got all the pipeline growth and the whole marketing stack. I see you nodding, so okay, that's a nice little portfolio to have to yourself. And Adriana and I go back to a place where we worked together called Kinaxis. I think you owned Web at the time, Adriana. Search Warrant Digital was an agency that supported you folks. We did some good things there, had some fun, won some awards. But what we did there has changed a lot. That was a few years ago now, and there was a lot of SEO there, and that has all changed. Or has it? This is the question we will be reviewing today. And one of the reasons we wanted to talk to Adriana, let's be honest, you've got a neat mix to your personality type, Adriana, which is you know stuff and you're not afraid to say it, yet you're still good fun to work with. I know lots of people have one of those attributes. I don't know too many people who have all three of those attributes. I really value the folks who are not shy, will tell you what they think, but don't need to be mean about it. I think that's not a bad description of you in a nutshell. So thank you for joining us today. And thank you for not being vague or wishy-washy. This is going to be a lot of fun. And the most important question I have for you is, what are you sipping today?
So I have a unicorn sangria. Okay. Yes. It's raspberry, blue raspberry, strawberries, and peaches with a white wine. So that is what I am. Yeah. So that is what I am sipping on today.
So it's not made with real unicorns.
No, no, it's called a skinny mix. And mix it in with your white wine and you've got your unicorn sangria. So that's what I'm drinking today, guys.
And we don't have to change our tagline of no unicorns were harmed in the filming of this podcast. That's also super helpful. Thank you, Adriana.
Brian, what are you drinking?
I just seem so boring in comparison. This is a classic. We've done it once before in another episode. It's a dab. It's a German beer, which is my shorthand for good beer. And I'm almost to the point of not caring what part of Germany or what style. If it comes from that country and it's beer, I probably want to drink it. And that's one of these. How about you, Brendan?
I think I'm also repeating again. I'm doing a Sober Carpenter. This one's a session IPA. Fingers crossed. It's a great summer beer. It's a lighter IPA for anyone who likes an IPA. This one's non-alcohol, but session IPAs are all good. I'm hoping that signals the start of summer someday, week, month, or whatever we're at.
I may have gotten
now. Any day now would be good.
I may have gotten sleet all over me this morning in what I was up to this morning. So let's not do that.
Well, I think Adriana beat us to the opening. I didn't open, so I will do that now and pour.
And I'm not even using a glass. I'm being a barbarian today.
Oh, boy. I have a glass. All right, here we go. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. To good podcasting.
All right. Brian, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask the first question today. I'm not
sure if I'm supposed
to, but why not? So, Adriana, as Brian highlighted, you have a great background, a lot of insights in a lot of different areas, but I'm going to kick this off with one area that I know a lot of our listeners are talking about and thinking about, and that's, they're not in the weeds on SEO like you are and like Brian is as well, but they're responsible for results. So if you're a CMO, a VP, a senior marketing leader, walking into the room right now, what are 2 or 3 things that they should be asking their SEO team to focus on? I know a lot has changed, so feel free to also bring us up to speed on a lot of the changes. But what are you looking at? What are you seeing? And what do you think people should be focusing on?
Yeah. So I'd say that when I'm talking to my team, there's a couple questions that I ask, first to myself and to them. Are we being used by AI? Not just ranked by Google, but like, are we showing up in results for ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, etc. And not just being ranked by Google in like search results, because as we all know, we now have AI that is kind of our search engine. And then are we capturing like big problems, high intent problems, not just traffic? So sure, we could all day say, what is XYZ? Or what is, a certain subset of problems. But really what we want to do is, how do I fix X or compare A versus B, and try to capture those that are making transactional or informative decisions, or high intent problems, as I call them. And then we also want to tie our SEO as much as we can to pipeline, not just like, are we getting page views? Which from a brand awareness perspective, I'm sure that I'll get a chance to talk about brand awareness, but from that perspective, we always want to tie it back to pipeline. So, are we actually influencing the opportunities that are coming through to us? Not just, are we seeing our page views, staying the same, plateauing, growing, etc. So I would say that I stick to those 3 questions, and there are a variety of tools out there that you can use to measure these things. But if you don't have the budget to be able to do that, like I say, to start off simple and go to ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini and have a spreadsheet, literally. And I literally say to my team, here's our spreadsheet. Here are the queries that we want to show up for. And week over week, we just say, did we show up in these queries? Were we mentioned? Yes or no? Were competitors listed? Yes or no? Which ones? And the source links that they used, the AI used in order to come up with that distinction. And that will allow you to see, like, what are competitors also popping up for, like, how are they getting ranked, as well as, if you weren't ranked, why or how could you be, for those queries. And then just mark that over time, like week over week, and see if there's any changes. And that's kind of, from my perspective, those are the main things that I focus on in order to see, are we making a difference in this SEO world, and how do we move the needle? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. She didn't, drop any good hints for us to follow up on. Keep it simple. Focus on the problem. Tie it to pipeline. Wow. Yeah, this is, all good marketing points, and yeah, definitely takes us beyond the SEO conversation. So maybe, Brian, you can take over and get her with a harder question, since mine was too easy.
I don't know if I've ever stumped Adriana. I don't know if this will be the day to try. I do like the suggestion. I'll paraphrase what you said of, let's not just do random acts of SEO. Let's actually know what we're trying to achieve, and then figure out, point that in a direction, have a goalpost. I like that a lot.
I mean, we did that a lot with you, Brian, like we always had, like this goalpost that we were trying to hit, and like, are we up, down, where are we at from that, so.
Exactly. And I know later on, when we're going to talk about, we can either make the case that everything's different than it used to be, or everything's actually the same as it used to be. And I think we could make either argument. I'm intrigued to figure out which one comes out later. But before we go there, I want to talk about monsters. I want to talk about crocodiles in particular. For those who are in the industry, their eyes just all started rolling because they know for the last about a year and a half ago or so, people all started to see these graphs that looked like, these are SEO graphs, folks, graphs that looked like a profile of a crocodile's mouth opening. If you're not, yeah, exactly. There you go. I was looking for a visual. I should have brought a visual to this, and I didn't.
I was going to ask for a whiteboard here. I was going to ask for a whiteboard sketch, but apparently we just need Adriana's hand signals.
So this is your crocodile from the side. And this is Search Console or other tools you're looking at. These are all of your impressions going up and to the right. And that makes you kind of happy because it's better than them going down. But this down here, the bottom of the crocodile's jaw, is all of your visits or your traffic or your sessions going down and to the right. And that's happening at the same time. And that's plain weird. People in the industry have been dealing with this for a little while. But if you don't spend every day, every moment talking SEO, that might be fresh and new. So Adriana, what's your take on it? What's going on there? What, if anything, should you do about that situation?
I'm one of the many that had also seen the crocodile mouth on my data. And, it really came down to when Google released their AI overview information and they kind of changed some of their algorithms to accommodate for that. What you're seeing is that you're becoming visible, but they're not landing on your site anymore because they're getting their answers from the AI engine, right? So they don't have to come to your site. They got the answers that they needed. And, a lot of people, I sat in several, meetings with folks on my team saying, well, how the hell do we get them back to our site? We can't have them leave. We can't have them get our, the data and the information and all that stuff and then not get something for it.
Yeah, I can't give them milk for free.
Yeah, exactly. So
if crocodiles were mammals, I guess. But anyway, please proceed.
So yeah, there was a couple weeks there where we were trying to figure out what the hell do we do, and at first we were like, is something broken? That was the first thing. And then we were like, oh, nope. All of this information started to come out of what was actually causing it. So when we started to unpack it a little bit, we said, well, you know what? If they get the answer that they're looking for in that, we need to figure out how we get them to want to know more. Because sure, they can read the AI overview, and let's say it's, what does Adriana have in her hand, right, for a drink? And it's like, oh, that's intriguing. It's pink, whatever. And they get their answer, right? But it's like, oh, I want to know how that's made because I want to try it. And so that essentially we started to think about, well, it actually brought up some really good questions for us internally of like, well, how the hell do we make people want to learn more? Like what do they want to learn post that information? I used Google Search Console a lot to look at queries that we were showing up for, and trying to figure out what are people searching on that we're actually showing up for, and to at least start there. And we looked at a variety of topics and ultimately ended up just coming down to a goalpost and saying, what are the ones that are the most important for us to where we're losing traffic to our site that actually ended up driving us pipeline. So looking at the data and saying, okay, what search keywords and things like that did people come in off of? And then we actually also looked at our paid search data too. We actually looked at our paid search too to see, what were some of the queries that had the most benefit to us. And from there, we just whittled it down to what are our 20 queries that we want to show up for, that we ultimately want people to look for more information. And we actually ended up seeing our branded search traffic actually increase. So we saw our branded traffic increase, and so we ended up saying, okay, well, what's the correlation? Let's see if there's a correlation between when it started to increase or when it increases to when we release certain information, when we make big changes to content that we have, when when we put out like a LinkedIn ad campaign or something like that, what is the correlation that we're seeing there? Because less and less people are clicking and they're doing more searching. We also like look at, what is the referral traffic from AI platforms as well, to look at, which platforms are driving the most. And, there's big differences between like how ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini, et cetera, answer things. And they all have different ways of going about it. So we kind of distill that information down into is our referral traffic? What is Google Search Console saying from the query perspective that we should be focusing on? And then what's driving ultimately pipeline for us? What are the keywords and stuff that are driving? And then we focused on 20 to start, and we essentially said, okay, we're gonna alter the content we already have. Don't create more content. Don't do that. I could go on all day about that. Don't create more content, but go into the content you already have and alter it.
Assuming you have some content in the first place.
Yes, assuming you have content in the first place. Yes. I mean, if you already have a plethora of content, that's what I'm saying. If you don't have any content, well, yeah, let's work on that.
You've got other problems.
Yeah. But if you have the content and you just want to show up, alter it so that it can be. And you also have to think about how an AI platform, actually ingests this information. So, going into bulleted information, making sure you have an LLMS.txt file, making sure that you have schema data on your pages. There's like a variety of things that you need to make sure of. But ultimately, when we saw this crocodile, I had a heart attack like everybody else. And
crocodiles are scary.
Yeah, they're scary. There were 5 little monkeys and there's no more 5 little monkeys. So swinging from the tree, just saying. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that song. Maybe I'm the only one, but
Sangria's working,
I have a 5-year-old at home, so 5 little monkeys swinging from the tree.
I know where you're coming from. You're not alone.
So yeah, that's where we're at, and I think the crocodile isn't as scary now that we know how to attack the crocodile. Yeah.
What it means and what to do about it. Yeah, I do remember. You're right, though. When it first started happening, there was a lot of the closest thing to panic I think I've heard in the SEO industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like the panic across everybody's eyes when the data started showing, and honestly, I didn't have answers. So it's like the hardest thing too when everybody's panicking and you're like, I don't have any answers for you right now. Let me figure out what we have to do. And honestly, like we didn't have all the answers until well into the crocodile mouth, So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Right. So in listening to you, Adriana, it's clear that some of the metrics we've been using and KPIs that we've been using for the past number of years don't make sense anymore, or could be misleading.
Sure.
Because we don't want more crocodiles. What are some of the KPIs that you're using now, or that you're recommending people use when it looks at, I guess, SEO, but even more broadly? Based on your previous answers, I have a guess for one of them. But what have you got? What are the KPIs you're following now or tracking?
Yeah, so before all of this, right, you would kind of look at your page views, your MQLs, your potentially time on site and things like that. But I think I harp on the most our pipeline influence. So ultimately, it doesn't matter if people are on your site if they don't make it to an opportunity, right? To pipeline. So that's the first one. And people will be like, well, how do you directly correlate that? Well, we have to look at, a lot of people look at marketing attribution and they say like last touch type scenarios. Well, our team anyways, like has a variety of different methods. So we look at first touch, last touch. We have like a U-shaped model to kind of weight all the touch points that happen within that. And I would say that like when you look at first touch, you need to see what ultimately brought them in. Where did they come from? Like from a referrer? What type of search terms did they come in off of? If you can gather that information and drive that to pipeline. So we do that from a first touch perspective and look at that from a pipeline influence situation. Now, a lot of people say, well, I get direct a lot. Like, oh, my traffic is direct. How do I get that? Well, first I'm going to tell you, you have to get a tool that gets way more granular than direct for you. And I know I get frustrated with Google Analytics, so don't start me on that train. But from there, you need to look at, okay, so some of them will, even actually Salesforce is catching up on this, right? They'll actually look at, ChatGPT or Perplexity. You'll see that as like the referrer that's coming in. But there are tools out there that can help you to distill that information, down to what's driving it. So get that information and then tie that to your opportunities so you can see that. Then, because this traffic is coming in after they've already done research, right? They've already gone on the AI platforms. They've already researched. They've done this stuff. They land on your website. They don't really need to answer much more than what they already have gotten. So they're a little bit more middle to bottom funnel when they come in now. So I look at how many pages within their visit are they viewing? Are they at all? Or are they engaged? Like, what are they looking at? And a lot of times actually our traffic on our doc site and like our documentation went up because they're middle bottom now. So now they're looking at more of that technical content. And we've actually switched our strategy to having more like short clips of demos available on the site, more case studies, which are always valuable, documentation pages and being more technical, and use cases and looking at like how are people actually utilizing the product, not like what we're offering, but what is the end outcome that you're trying to solve for. And so that is, I look at engaged visits, and that's kind of broken out into, how many pages within their session so that we have a benchmark. And then what is the depth or time on those pages? And we can look at scroll depth as well. Like, are they actually reading the pages or are they just clicking around, etc.? So that's kind of the second metric. So pipeline, engaged sessions, and kind of depth of reading. And then what's the quality of that traffic that's coming in? So we look at and we rank the people that come in and convert with us. We have like high intent form submissions. We have score outs, as we like to call them. And then we have like outreach, outreach. I can't even, my brain's not thinking right now, but like people that come in from our outbound outreach and things of that nature, right? And the high intent form submissions, we look at that on a scale of 1 to 5 and we rank them. And we say, okay, how close to our ICP do those people fit? And we look at that over time, what percentage of the people that are coming in actually fit our ICP. We also do this on people that don't convert with us. So we have a variety of de-anonymization tools on our site to be able to de-anonymize the folks that are coming. And then we rank those people as well. And we look at that over time too. To say, like, are we hitting the right queries? Are the people that are coming in, they may be the right persona, but maybe it's not the right team within the company that we need to go after, things of that nature. So it's a lot of learning for us. And it's a lot of shifting quickly too. So we do like 6-week sprints essentially of changes. And it's important to look at it on a regular basis, and it's hard when you are changing so often, but the market is changing so often. So you have to be able to adapt. And, I even say, like, when we're hiring, yeah. When we're hiring, I'm not looking for necessarily a skill set. I'm looking for the ability to adapt and change quickly and fitting in with the team more so than anything, because guess what? I don't know everything that's going to come out in 6 months, nor does the next person. And they can try to convince me on that interview as much as they want, but they don't know.
Good luck.
Yeah. So it's it's a matter of if people can change with the times. And so to go back to the KPIs, I would just recommend making sure pipeline is, pipeline's my biggest thing. I've said it probably how many times. I mean, how about drink every time Adriana says pipeline? But and then looking at page, the depth in which they're researching. And then from there, looking at the conversion quality and kind of ranking that to see like where you're going and what's coming in. So,
yeah, I definitely was not surprised with the pipeline one, Adriana. I'll drink because I said it. But the engaged visits, I think, is an awesome one. And how you defined it is cool. And then we've covered on a couple previous podcasts the quality over quantity. So definitely aligned on that one as well.
And Adriana, you referenced a couple things separately that actually are related to the crocodile that I want to call out for folks who don't do this all day, every day. But at one point you mentioned, hey, our branded traffic was going up. At another point you mentioned, hey, our direct traffic is going up. What's up with that? At the same time as this weird crocodile is happening. Those things are not disconnected, and they're almost to the point of being normal for that period of time in the industry. So if you find the crocodile really scary, you can take some solace in the fact that those direct and branded queries are typically pretty valuable ones.
Yeah. And a lot, people are like, well, that's great, but how the hell did they get here? It's like this, this unknown. And, when people have unknowns, they get nervous,
Yes.
It's like it, you want to have predictable, forecastable information, at your fingertips. And
well, I can riff on that. You're giving me a good segue because I want to riff on some of the confusion and the unknown in this industry.
Yeah.
And it's I'm going to call this question pick your own acronym. So we could be talking about GEO, generative engine optimization. We could be talking about answer engine optimization, AEO. We could be talking about large language model, LMMO. You get the idea. There's a lot of them. They all seem to refer to versions of the same thing. And meanwhile, one of the folks I follow and have for years, Mr. Rand Fishkin, his take on it is, we've already got a perfectly good acronym for this. It's SEO. It just means search everywhere optimization. That was kind of an argument about a year ago on LinkedIn or so. So in this acronym soup of SEO and AI and everything in between, where do you land? Do you have a favorite? And are we just overcomplicating this entire conversation?
We're overcomplicating it, Brian.
I'm glad she picked that one.
Would we be marketers if we didn't have an acronym? I'm just saying.
That's fair.
And I swear every company that I go into has their own set of internal acronyms that take like 6 months to learn as well. So it's not just verbiage that's used in the market. It's also internal verbiage too. But yeah, so internally, I've been using AEO. However, I will say that SEO is definitely just the blanket term, right? You're searching ultimately.
Yes.
It's a search engine. You are searching for an answer in some way, shape, or form. And so I don't think it really needs to change. Now, internally, the reason we changed it is because it was when we were communicating about it is almost to just say there was the old method of tracking information, and now there's this new method. And when we're blanket statement talking about it, we want to make sure that everybody's putting their new hat on and not thinking about all the old methods and things like that, and saying, just think outside the box for a hot second. And it gets people to almost switch their brain from, okay, we're going to do these sets of things to, okay, let's think outside the box, and there is no set things that we do anymore, and think outside the box. And I actually think it's a good thing because it gets you to actually really, truly think, know your product, like know your customers, know what they're actually trying to get to. And it's made us think even harder than we ever have in the past. So in terms of acronym soup, I think it's just the world we live in, and we always have acronyms, but it's a PETA, if you know that acronym. There's mine that I'm going to throw in there today.
I'm familiar with a taco, but that's a totally different conversation.
So, I would say that SEO, I'm right there with them. SEO is where it's at, and you can use different acronyms to do different things and communicate what you're talking about in this new world. But ultimately, I think it just goes right back.
It is useful for signaling to folks in the room who've heard the same one for 10 years that there's something a little different this time to pay attention to, and pull up your socks and start listening harder.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you guys refer to it as within your
It's funny when you referenced how the acronyms change with the organization you go to. That's what happens when we go to a new client site. We'll start speaking one language, and they'll have a different one, and you're like, "Well, we're your agency. We're just going to adopt however you talk about it."
Yeah.
So you can call it a lead, you can call it an opportunity, you can call it this or that or the other thing. As an aside, I will say that I think that will be a sign when the marketing industry is all grown up, is when we stop recreating the language for things that are mostly the same most of the time. I don't think plumbers and carpenters have this problem. A 2x4 is usually a 2x4.
Yeah.
Nope, we're calling it something different today.
Agreed. I think that would be quite confusing for the person that's hammering the nail.
Exactly.
Right.
What about you, Brendan?
I mean, I agree with Brian. I mean, I think most of the time it's what the client calls it. Although I am surprised quite often the client calls them different things internally from each other. So that's another challenge. But yeah, I tend to go with and do what they're doing just because, it's easier for us to adapt than them in many instances. But I think to Brian's point on the SEO term, I think going in with SEO, people still tend to think the older side of that, right? So it does help to have something at least a bit different when you're talking about it today.
Yeah. And then you have to think about what is going to bring everybody in the room together and on the same page. And regardless of what the term is that they use, ultimately you just need to be talking the same language,
You don't want to throw a grenade in the middle of the room unless you intend to throw a grenade in the middle of the room.
Yeah, exactly. I throw a lot of grenades, Brian.
I know, it's one of the reasons I like you.
There's a lot of grenades being thrown.
Yeah, flak jackets and helmets were good.
Yeah, I think we could go on a lot longer here, as is the norm, it seems, with many episodes, but I might have to bring this back to our favorite question, Adriana.
Yeah.
If there's anything that we talked about marketing having a lot of acronyms and creating a new acronym. Well, I've got one. Marketing also has a lot of myths. And there seems to be a new one on a regular basis. So we're going to hit you with our favorite question. Again, we haven't done a poll of guests to find out if anyone likes this question, but it's our podcast, so we're going to ask it anyway. And because we've talked a lot about SEO, and I'm going to use the Rand Fishkin's definition of SEO for this question, but if there's anything, a myth, something that bugs you, gets under your skin, that you just want to set the record straight on when it comes to SEO, you can take and interpret SEO as you wish here. What is the myth that you want to set everyone straight on today?
I think you heard it earlier today, so I'm going to repeat it.
That's okay.
You do not need to create more content to have better SEO. You do not. And I know people are going to be like, well, everybody tells me to create all of this extra content like for different keywords and this and that, and if you just like automate all these blog posts, etc., like that did work at one point. Yes, it did work at one point.
A lot of these things did work briefly at one point in previous times.
But I'm going to say that you do not need to create more content unless you don't have any, like Brian said earlier. You need to create more content. But don't create more content. Take the content that you already have, structure it so that when somebody's reading it, they have the who, what, where, why, when, how, etc. nicely outlined. And that's the same way that the LLMs are going to read it as well, digest it, and spit it out to the person that's searching for them. So you just have to get rid of the fluff, get rid of the, buzzy acronym terms and buzzwords and all that stuff, and just get down to the point. Like if somebody says, why should I buy your product? well, here you go. And don't beat around the bush. And it's causing a lot of people to actually try to figure out and distill down, what do I say? Like, what do I, if I had only, and it's a good exercise actually to do with your team. If I had 120 characters, what would I say? What would I say? And then making sure that everything wraps around back to that North Star of that 120 word description. And ultimately that's how, and it kind of reminds me of like pillar content, Brian, remember when we used to do
I remember those. I remember those pages. Pillar pages.
Find what your pillar is and wrap all that content around it. And make sure, though, that it is structured in a way that an LLM can read it. Because an LLM is different than a search engine. And it ultimately likes to scan. It likes to scan. So still going back to your fundamentals of H1s, H2s, H3s,
which are all made to help humans scan in the first place, in print.
Oh, interesting. So, wait, we were doing that, and now we have to do it for an AI bot.
Who's trying to be kind of like human. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm probably going to get eaten alive for saying, don't make more content, because there are a ton of people out there that are saying to do it, but don't do it. Structure your content, make it readable, make it digestible, quickly, fast. I mean,
this is starting to sound like
I'm going over right now, so clearly I'm really bad at this, but
quality versus quantity argument. I like it a lot.
Yep. So that's what I recommend, and that's my myth buster for today.
and to be clear, there's no unicorns were harmed in any of this.
None.
Okay.
None.
In that case, I will bring us home because I can tell I've got about 9 more things I want to ask you about, and we're not going to do that in this episode. So we might have to do another one at a later date. But I want to say on behalf of the whole crew here, thank you for taking time. If you're running that whole team and that whole situation that we described off the top at Snowplow, you probably have busy days. So we appreciate you taking the time to spend some of it with us and bust some myths and share where things are at and where they aren't at with this crazy world of SEO. So thanks so much.
Absolutely. Only for you guys. Only for you guys.
Thanks, Adriana.
Cheers. My last sip. Let's go.
Cheers.
Hey folks, if you liked that episode, you won't believe the next one.
So don't forget to subscribe on your favorite platform and you won't miss out.
Or if you've got an idea we haven't thought of yet, hit us up in the comments. We'll cover that too.